My name is June Lindsay, and I'm going to be talking about the school-to-prison pipeline. Now, what is it, you ask? This is a system implemented by educational institutions in which criminal justice systems are established in schools. They see this as taking a preventative measure, but they don't see the psychological toll it takes on students. As students, mostly non-white and come from inner cities, are aware of the prejudice stacked against them. In the system, officers roam the halls of schools, reducing suspicious or blatant wrongdoings of students. This throws off any child's focus from their usual academic mindsets. For example, when a cop car pulls out behind me, I get a little nervous. I check my seatbelt, I check my speed limit, and I constantly check my rearview mirror, just hoping he doesn't turn his lights on or pull me over, and just, hoping he makes a turn somewhere to get away from me. Now they've also implemented a zero-tolerance policy in schools, which has resulted in mass incarceration. Students have been rounded up and punished for minor infractions. Not that I think being late to school or bullying a child is a minor offense, but they could take less extreme measures to punish a student. Visits to the principal's office doesn't even exist anymore. They've been replaced with suspensions, expulsions, and even arrests. I have experienced a school system which zero-tolerance policies were not a persisting factor. They were there. So my experience was sophomore year, I danced with a boy at formal, not realizing he was my classmate's boyfriend until I was told the next day by the death glare she shot me for an hour and a half in English class. I'm walking down to lunch, and I hear trudging footsteps behind me, and I turn to look to see her chasing after me and threatening me. I went to the principal's office to let them know what happened. I didn't see her for a couple of days. She, from last I've heard it, she left the school, got some help, and I'm assuming that was just one situation that set her off, because she didn't grow up in exactly the best community and the best environment, but luckily they provided her with the resources she needed. And the funny thing is, now I'm friends with her, and she actually works for a bunch of non-profit organizations for the underprivileged, and she has lived her life with such respect and compassion for others that she would have never been able to see the light at the end of the tunnel had it not been for schools pushing for, help like that, for pushing for resources to better educate a student of their, emotional capabilities. So with the zero-tolerance policy, schools believe they're teaching accountability and responsibility, but I don't believe that's the case. All they're doing is taking the chance away from a child to receive proper education by instilling fear in them for 7 to 8 hours. Can you imagine looking over your shoulder, just hoping a police officer doesn't come up and reprimand you for something you didn't realize you were doing wrong? And what are we teaching the future of America with this? We're teaching them to abide by a concrete system educational institutions have set, or we get thrown in jail. Now I think that's conformity, the taking conformity to the extreme. Schools don't look at the cause of delinquency. They don't look at family and financial situations. They don't look at environments. They don't look at disabilities, learning or generalized. They, good family dynamic is important for a child in his or her early stages of development, and some aren't so lucky. Some grow up in impoverished areas and broken families. The broken families are due to a divorce, a death, an imprisonment. They don't look at the environmental factors. They don't look at these kids' role models. They're, who do they look up to? Do they look up to rappers who have been imprisoned for countless uses of drugs who were their friends. I live next to a town who has taken so many students away due to drug abuse. And are these students, are they victims of abuse at home? I don't think school officials realize that there's so many external factors they overlook before they call a kid bad. They don't necessarily ask, what happened to you? They ask, what is wrong with you? And I think you don't word a question like that because the child maybe doesn't know what's wrong with them. They're trying their best. The school officials can't ask for children to leave their home life and their problems at home. Some kids see schools as their safe haven, as, the place they go to escape anything they may have going on outside. For kids who are victims of abuse, they come to school and all through the day their minds are running through these questions. What will happen when I get home? Will I get beat again? Or those who grow up in impoverished areas, the obstacles they think about when they walk home from the school bus. They can't compartmentalize their emotions and situations from outside of school, and teachers can't simply tell them to leave their problems at the door. The media loves to report on how lack of education prisoners have received are in direct correlation with criminal activity, but they fail to speak about the lack of funding that goes into higher education than there is in mass incarceration. From a statistic I've seen, it was done between a 20-year lifespan from 1987 to 2007. There was a 127% increase in funding for incarceration in comparison to the 21% increase in higher education, in funding for higher education. What is that trying to tell us? I can't see the bettering of the future of America when we're throwing these kids in jail instead of educating them on how to become model citizens. We're not providing enough resources, we're not providing enough psychological help, and I think that's a shame because from my experiences, the most troubled people do the most extraordinary things and make the biggest differences in the world, and I think we should focus on that. Thank you.